Greetings and welcome to Teaching Tips and Thoughts. In this discussion, I am going to talk about ways of streamlining and personalizing feedback that I do using a text expander. So a little bit about what I've done here is, first of all, what do we mean by a text expander? Well, you're familiar with this in some things. You type in a set of characters and it can expand it out to a different phrase or sentence. And this is a way to save work by using automating repeated responses, things that you say over and over again. Well, they can automatically be set to a very specific code that you then put in. Now, the one I use for Mac computers is called Type It For Me. Although there are other devices and similar things that work on other systems as well. So how do I go about using this? Well, what I do is when I find myself typing the same comment over and over again, I save it as what is called a snippet in the program. And I use a code that I will remember to expand and use this again and again. It helps make feedback consistent for the student. So if someone has the same issue, they get the same comment as another student. I can also include point deductions. So if I'm marking the same error, that means I'm grading things consistently. I can also very easily edit it if there are a range of point deductions depending on how extreme the issue was. Now, one example is, and this will look a little odd, but if I type 3L5Q11, it will expand out as this much longer snippet shown here. Now, the details of it aren't important. Now, why does this mean something to me? It looks like just random letters and numbers. Well, it refers to, in this case, my course, Astronomy 103, which is the 3. We're looking at Lab 5 and question 11. So when I'm grading Lab 5, this makes perfect sense to me to type. Oh, this student had an issue with question 11 on Lab 5. 3L5Q11 gives me this explanation. And of course, I can always add something at the end if I want to as well. So how can we use this for personalizing feedback? Well, you can set the snippets to pause and allow you to enter information that is specific to the student, such as a name, maybe a specific date, or specific questions that have missed. It still saves time, but you can focus it to the individual student. And students find it much more personalized, and they get detailed feedback specific to them, but saving me a lot of time in terms of typing out the same thing over and over again. So let's pause here. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. Let's pull up a blank screen here we can look at, and let's pull up another one of my labs. So if we were doing Astronomy 103 and we're doing Lab 7 and the student had an issue with question 1, I type that, and now it's pausing. This is where it's one of the examples where I can personalize it. The student needs to be more specific in their area. So maybe they picked out a specific location, in this case on the Earth, and maybe they gave me Russia. And I just want to tell them that's much too general a location. It's a vast area. You need to be more specific. So that's one way that it does to pause these things. I can also give welcomes to students when we're introducing at the beginning of a semester, and I can have various welcomes, in this case, welcome 1. And I can personalize it to their name. So welcome to the class, Robert. Great to have you with us. And of course, I could expand this and make it much longer if I wanted to. We can also give other reasons for it. We could say, for example, just have standard ones. If I'm doing a discussion and I thought the student needed more content in their initial post, I would type initial post, more content, and boom, there's whatever my minimum is and various examples. So as you get used to these, it makes it very, very quick to give detailed and personalized feedback, especially when you're grading a lot of different classes. And you can make these so that they're personalized to those specific classes by using codes that work for that class. So let's go ahead back to our little bit of our discussion here. And again, we've looked at some examples now, and let me just go over a few tips before I finish up. One thing is to be very careful of what is called the trigger that is used to expand them. Often it uses the return or space bar as a default. Well, this is nice, but if your abbreviation happens to be a word, then you could be just typing something else and all of a sudden it's going to expand outward in the middle of an email or something else you're doing. You can block it so that certain programs will not expand, such you could turn off Outlook so Outlook would not allow expansions. But if you wanted to use it, you can do it. And what I've done is that instead of my trigger being things like a space bar, I use the equal sign. And that's not normally something I would type in my feedback to my students. I would not normally type them some code and then an equal sign, or even a word and an equal sign is going to be would be very odd that I would be using that. So you could pick out some other character. Equal sign I like. It doesn't require a shift or anything else. It's just a character there that I would not normally use. And you want to use abbreviations that mean something to you. As I said, the ones that I use for some of the labs are real nice for me because they tell me which lab I'm doing, they tell me which question, and it allows me to give students feedback on assignments much faster than I would be able to otherwise. So that concludes this discussion on using a text expander to streamline and personalize feedback. I'll be back again next time for another teaching tip and thought. So until then, have a great day, everyone, and I will see you next time.